Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to be installing a power inverter into my Spooky Jeep. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and don't forget to subscribe.
I present to you a foggy Spooky Jeep. So I've been wanting to install a power inverter into the Spooky Jeep for a while now. They do come in handy for all kinds of applications, but the one that I am most excited about is I want to run a fog machine inside my Spooky Jeep. Not only do I think it would make for a cool Instagram shot with smoke rolling out of the doors, but I have Trunk or Treat coming up and I'm really excited. I think it'd be cool to have a fog machine running out of the Spooky Jeep at Trunk or Treat. Now, honestly, I did very little research before I decided on what inverter to get, so I'm going to be doing a full install and review on the inverter. Now, these are available on Amazon. I'll go ahead and I'll put a link in the description down below. All right, now let's check out what's inside the box. So this here is everything that comes in the kit. It comes with the power inverter, some instructions, a 6-gauge power wire, and a 6-gauge ground wire. Now, some things that did not come in the kit that are required or I highly recommend is some wire loom, some 12 or 14 gauge wire for an additional ground wire, a handful of round electrical connectors for the 6-gauge and 12-gauge wire. And the last thing I recommend, it actually calls out for in the instructions, and it says not included specifically, is a 200 amp fuse. Now, this fuse block here, I picked up out of an old parts Jeep that I had. They were using it for their audio system, but you can pick these up on Amazon along with a 200 amp fuse. It does call out for 200 specifically in the instructions. I'll go ahead and put a link for this, the inverter, and anything else I use down in the description below. Now, in the instructions here, it does have recommended cable gauge based off of length of wire. So let's say, for instance, you need to run 10 feet. You need to make sure you use at least a 2-gauge wire. And this also is the place in the instructions where it recommends a 200 amp fuse for our 12 volt application. And it does say down here, battery protection fuse not included. Now, the wiring for this unit is pretty straightforward. You've got your positive here, which connects to the positive terminal on your battery. You have negative here, which will connect to the negative terminal on your battery. Now, it does say in the instructions that you can connect this to any solid ground on your vehicle, so it doesn't necessarily have to be ran all the way back to the battery. Now, this one here, it does not provide cable for. That's what the extra wire is for. This here is an earth ground. You want to make sure that you run this to a vehicle ground. You do not want to loop it right back to the negative terminal. This is a ground protection for the housing. That way you don't run into any shocking issues. Now, a few key features of this specific unit is it does have 315 volt outlets as well as 2 USB outlets so you can charge your devices. It has an on and off switch right on the unit itself, which I think is great. That way it's not constantly running. You don't have to run an auxiliary switch to cut the power going to the unit. So if you don't want it running, you can just shut it off. It has a low voltage alarm. If the voltage drops to 10.5 volts, it'll sound an alarm, and if it drops to 9.5 volts, it will shut the unit off. That way you don't run your battery completely flat. Now, if you run your battery to that low of voltage, it's probably not going to start your vehicle, so I would highly recommend either running this off of an auxiliary battery or not running it long enough to run your battery dead, maybe while the vehicle is running instead. Now, this unit also has an over voltage protection. So if it reaches 15 volts going into the unit, it'll shut the unit off and not allow it to work. That way, it doesn't cause any problems inside the unit itself. And it also is equipped with overheat protection and overload protection, which is also extremely important. Now, one last important note about this unit is on the bottom here, it does have vents to allow it to breathe, to get rid of heat. So if you're going to be mounting this to carpet, maybe the back of your seat, or in the floorboard somewhere, I would highly recommend putting something in between this and the carpet to keep anything from blocking these vents and to allow it to breathe properly. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut a piece out of this metal here and mount this underneath my unit. That way it gives it a nice smooth area underneath it, keeps it elevated above this, and there's no carpet interfering with the breathability of the inverter. Now, this panel is just a little piece out of my hood from when I installed my hood vents. This is what was left over, so I'm just going to cut a little section out of it. I think I'm going to keep it orange just because why not? Who knows? I might use the black side. I haven't decided yet. Either way, this is going underneath it so I don't ruin anything. I don't cause any overheating issues. And my inverter will work good, last a long time. Now, I haven't exactly 100% decided where I want to mount my inverter just yet. I know that I really want to get one of those Molly panels and mount it to that, but that is out of the budget at this moment. So right now, I think I'm just going to mount it here to the floor and make sure I don't throw my spare tire on top of it. Either way it goes, no matter where I mount it back here, I'm going to be pulling my power off of the bus bar that's mounted behind this panel here. Now, I mounted that bus bar when I ran rear power back here to run a rear winch. If you haven't seen that video, you can check it out right up there. So first things first, I need to tear into this panel. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this out just enough to give me the access to this bus bar back here. Once again, if you guys want to check out the video on how I put this in there, go ahead and click that link up there. I'll also link it as one of the videos that pop up at the end of this video, those little ones that show up in the boxes. Anyway, I'm going to run it through and out this hole as well as my ground, and I'm going to get that done. As soon as I get that done, I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, so after that simple task taking way longer than I care to admit, I can go ahead and move on. So what I've been thinking is I'm going to go ahead and just mount it right there. It's kind of temporary. I can always put something over this if I have to kind of help protect it, but it'll be a good spot for it for now. And then once I am able to build a bracket or do something up here, I can move it up. So because of that, I'm going to leave the original cables the same length that they are, just kind of wad it up over here with a zip tie maybe, just so that I can keep my cables as long as possible in case I do need to move it wherever I need to. But now that my positive cable is connected back behind here, I can go ahead and move on. So for my ground and my negative cable, what I've decided I'm going to do is go ahead and connect it right here underneath the carpet. Now this is where the original spare tire used to mount. It goes right to the body. The XJ is a unibody, so it should be a good solid ground because all the ground should technically be the same. Now it is really thick right here, so I think this is a good spot. I can just ground to it and we'll be good to go. So what I've done is I've just kind of cut the carpet a little bit to open it up. That way when I bolt my ground down, the carpet will actually sit kind of on top of it. Good, semi-solid ground. I think it'll work just fine. I'm pretty proud of my accomplishment there. So with the inverter, I'm going to try to mount it as close to the wheel well as possible. That way it's more out of the way of my spare tire. I think I'm going to go buy a cheap little metal toolbox that I can just kind of set over it when I'm not using it. That way it can protect it from any tools I got rolling around back here. But first things first, I need to mount my plate down because once again, it's mounted up against the carpet and we need it to breathe so we don't overheat it. What do you guys think? Orange up or black up? I think the black up will blend with the carpet better. But it's the Spooky Jeep and it's got to be orange. So let me get a second opinion. What do you think? Black up? Orange up?
Black.
It's going to be sitting like this.
Black.
Boring. We're just going to assume that there's nothing underneath here that I got to worry about. So I'm going to run some self-tapping screws through here and hold it down. Now when it comes to my fuse block, I am just going to leave this loose because I do plan on moving it around a little bit. It'll also give me a good idea where it needs to be after I mount my air compressor. But I don't want to mount my air compressor until I'm all done in case I got to take this panel off again. All right, so now we can work on the wiring on the back of this thing. Now, as you can see back here, we do have our positive and our negative and that little earth ground down there. Pretty sure that says that has a plus on it. That has a plus on it, right? So first thing first, I'm going to go ahead and connect our red wire to our positive. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of point it straight up for now, and then I will adjust my cables later. And once again, I'm going to leave these loose for temporary till I figure out what I'm going to do. Next thing, we're going to run our earth ground back here. Now this one here, I'm not too worried about trying to keep it long because let's face it, I got enough wire. I can rewire this whole Jeep. Now it is important once again that you do not forget this ground
because it does ground the casing to an earth ground. So if you've mounted this to the back of the seat or maybe to a board, I know a lot of people will make a setup out of wood that has all their electrical running through it. Definitely ground your casing. It's very important. If anything goes wrong, you don't want to get shocked. And last but not least, it's time to connect our ground cable. And this is the one that would run to your negative battery cable. But once again, the instructions did say you can ground it to the chassis. Moment of truth. That's right, it doesn't work because I disconnected the battery. Oh, it beeped. I'm not gonna lie. I flipped that switch and it beeped and it startled me just a little bit. So now for the official moment of truth. Power tools in the Jeep.
Oh, hold on. I have it.
Open one of the doors. Oh, they're locked. So in case you guys are wondering, the fog machine, it works. It's a little smoky in here right now, so we're gonna try to let it air out some. I don't know, maybe I'll get a fan. Yeah, I'm gonna get a fan. So I gotta say, it works pretty good. I really like it so far. Only time will tell. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. As always, don't forget to subscribe. You can check me out on Instagram at It's Project Venture, as well as the Tickety Talk at It's Project Venture. Thanks for watching.
It's Project Venture. Yeah.
Theme song. Cue the intro. Tall guy, beard, twins, purple hosier.
Are you gonna add that?
Maybe a little.
Your bloopers.
Oh.